The red dust of Mars swirled around the dome of New Olympus Colony as 8-year-old Amy Collins chased her pet robot dog through rows of hydroponically grown corn. The artificial sunlight beamed down from ceiling panels, creating a perfect Earth-like day within the controlled environment of the agricultural dome. "Spark, come back here," Amy called out, her laughter echoing between the tall green stalks. The small robot, shaped like a beagle but with glowing blue eyes and a metallic coat, barked playfully as it darted between the plants. John Collins looked up from his soil samples and smiled at his daughter. At 42, his hair was beginning to gray at the temples, but his eyes remained bright with scientific curiosity. As the lead agricultural scientist for the Mars colony, he spent most days working to improve crop yields in the alien soil. "Don't go too far, Amy," he called. "Remember, the Founding Day celebration starts in an hour." Lisa Collins entered the dome, her lab coat still on after finishing her shift at the genetics lab. She brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face as she approached her husband. "The corn looks good this season," she observed, wrapping an arm around John's waist. "Your new mineral mix is working." John nodded. "The yields are up 15%. If this keeps working, we can expand to the next dome by spring." The Collins family represented humanity's greatest hope, scientists who could make life possible on other worlds. Since establishing the first permanent colonies beyond Earth 30 years ago, humanity had expanded to Mars, Europa, and even Alpha Centauri. The dream of becoming a spacefaring civilization was slowly becoming reality. What humanity didn't know was that they were being watched. Above Mars, hidden by technology far beyond human understanding, a Zavari scout ship observed the colony. Inside the sleek silver vessel, Commander Krall examined holographic displays of the human settlement. "These humans adapt quickly," Krall noted, his scaled skin reflecting the purple light of the ship's interior. His elongated eyes narrowed as he zoomed in on the agricultural dome. "Look at how they modify their crops to grow in alien soil. Such genetic adaptability." Subcommander Varick nodded. The Council was right about them. Their ability to survive in hostile environments is remarkable. "And that adaptability is coded in their genetics," Krall said, "particularly in developing specimens. The younger the human, the more pronounced the adaptability." Varick looked uncomfortable. "The Concordat has rules about interfering with developing species." Krall waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. "Rules that they conveniently ignore when it benefits them. Our faction needs this research to survive. The main branch of our species grows weak with complacency. Find me a suitable specimen." The scanner focused on Amy as she played. "This one," Krall decided. "Young, healthy, and from scientist parents, likely carrying superior genetic traits." Back in the colony, bells chimed throughout the domes, announcing the beginning of Founding Day celebrations. Mars colony had been established 25 years ago, and every year the colonists gathered to commemorate the achievement. Amy held her mother's hand as they walked toward the central plaza. The usually busy work areas had been transformed, with colorful decorations and tables of food lined the walls. Musicians played while colonists danced and laughed. "Uncle Will," Amy suddenly shouted, breaking away from her mother and running toward a tall man in a blue Earth Defense Force uniform. Captain William Collins, John's younger brother, scooped up his niece and spun her around. "There's my favorite Martian," he said with a broad smile. Lisa and John approached surprised. "Will, you didn't tell us you were coming," John said, embracing his brother. "Wanted to surprise you," Will replied. "The EDF Defender is in orbit for resupply. I have 48 hours of shore leave." Will had joined the Earth Defense Force when the colony program began, believing that humanity's expansion into space would eventually require protection. Many had called it paranoia. After all, no verifiable contact with alien intelligence had been made. Still, as humans pushed further into the stars, the EDF had grown from a small security force into a genuine military branch. "Is it true you've gone all the way to the edge of explored space?" Amy asked, eyes wide with excitement. Will winked at her. "That's classified information, young lady. But between us, we've seen some amazing things out there." The celebration continued as night fell over the colony. The dome lights dimmed to simulate evening, and stars became visible through the transparent upper sections. Amy and several other children played games in the plaza, while the adults enjoyed the rare opportunity to relax. No one noticed when the colony's sensors briefly flickered offline for exactly 7 seconds. In that small window, a beam of light shot down from the cloaked Zavari ship. It passed through the dome as if it weren't there, positioning itself over the playing children. Amy was the first to notice something strange, a tingling sensation, followed by a soft purple glow that surrounded her. She opened her mouth to call for her parents, but no sound came out. The other children, caught up in their game, didn't immediately notice as she began to rise slowly into the air. When the first scream came, it was already too late. Parents turned to see Amy suspended 3 meters above the ground, bathed in purple light. "Amy!" Lisa screamed, running toward her daughter. John was right behind her, face pale with terror. Will Collins reacted with military precision, drawing his service pistol and scanning the sky, though he saw nothing but stars through the dome. "Someone's taking her! It's some kind of tractor beam!" he shouted. But there was nothing to shoot at, nothing to fight. Amy's small face was frozen in an expression of terrified confusion as she rose higher. The purple beam pulled her straight through the dome material as if it were simply not there. For a brief moment, the Zavari ship's cloaking faltered from the energy required for the extraction. The gathered colonists saw a glimpse of something, massive and silver against the night sky before it vanished again. Amy was gone. The colony erupted into chaos. Emergency alarms blared as security forces mobilized. Will Collins was already on his communicator, calling the EDF Defender in orbit. "This is Captain Collins. We have an abduction situation at New Olympus Colony. Unknown craft, advanced technology. They've taken my niece, scramble all fighters, locked down orbital space," but it was too late. The Zavari ship had already jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the solar system before the EDF could respond. In the central plaza, Lisa Collins collapsed to her knees, her anguished cries echoing through the dome. John stood frozen, staring at the spot where his daughter had vanished. Within hours, the news reached Earth. A human child had been taken by what was clearly an alien intelligence. Humanity had its first confirmed contact with extraterrestrial life, and it had come in the form of a kidnapping. What no one yet realized was that this single act would expose a darker truth about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. The abduction of Amy Collins would set in motion events that would forever change the course of human history and reshape the political landscape of the entire galaxy. Because while Earth was considered a minor developing world by the standards of the Galactic Concordat, there was one thing the advanced alien civilizations had yet to learn about humans. Nobody takes our children. 3 days after Amy's abduction, Earth was in uproar. For the first time in human history, governments worldwide united with a single purpose. The images of the alien ship, though blurry and brief, had been broadcast to every corner of the planet. Admiral Claire Morgan stood before the emergency assembly of world leaders in the United Nations headquarters in New York. At 56, she had dedicated her life to Earth's defense, rising through military ranks with a reputation for both strategic brilliance and unwavering integrity. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform bore the insignia of Earth's unified military command. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady and clear, "what happened on Mars was not just an attack on one family or one colony. It was an attack on all of humanity." The room fell silent. On the large screen behind her appeared the faces of John and Lisa Collins, their eyes hollow with grief. "We now have proof that we are not alone in the universe," Morgan continued. "And our first contact came in the form of child abduction. This will not stand." President Samuel Garcia of the North American Alliance rose from his seat. "Admiral, what exactly are you proposing? We don't even know who took the girl, or where they went." Admiral Morgan's expression hardened. "That's not entirely true, sir." She nodded to her aide, who tapped a tablet. The screen changed to show a complex star map. 24 hours ago, the deep space vessel EDF Pathfinder made contact with an alien trading ship near Alpha Centauri. Against all odds, they managed peaceful communication. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The aliens identified themselves as the Krell, a trading species. When shown images of the ship that took Amy Collins, they recognized it immediately as Xivari technology. Morgan paused to let this sink in. Furthermore, the Krell informed us that we are on the fringes of what they call the Galactic Concordat, an alliance of advanced civilizations. Earth has been classified as a developing world with limited rights. Outrage erupted in the chamber. Morgan raised her hand for silence. The Krell provided coordinates for contacting the Concordat. We sent an emergency transmission demanding the return of Amy Collins. Their response was... She paused, jaw tightening, dismissive. She played the recording. A tall, thin alien with blue skin appeared on screen, speaking in perfectly translated English. Earth representatives, the Concordat acknowledges your communication regarding the alleged abduction of a human child. While we understand your distress, your evidence of Xivari involvement is insufficient for Concordat intervention. The Xivari are a founding member of our alliance and a highly respected species. We suggest you focus on your own development rather than making accusations against advanced civilizations. Your status as a developing world does not grant you the right to make demands. The message ended. The room exploded with angry voices. President Garcia banged his fist on the table. They're not going to help us. No, sir, they're not, Morgan agreed. But we recovered more than just communication protocols from the Krell. We have coordinates, star maps, and basic information about Concordat technology. And we have this. The screen changed to show a small metallic disc. The Krell gave this to the captain of the Pathfinder. It's a translation device with access to the Concordat's public knowledge database, and it contained one more piece of information. Morgan's voice grew cold. The Xivari are known for collecting specimens from developing worlds for their research. The Concordat turns a blind eye because Xivari technology benefits them all. John Collins, who had been listening via video link from Mars, suddenly spoke. You're saying they've done this before? Taken children from other worlds? Yes, Mr. Collins. I believe your daughter is not the first, nor the only current victim. Lisa. Collins covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Where is she? Where did they take her? Morgan looked directly into the camera. We don't know yet, but I promise you this. We will find her, and we will bring her home. She turned back to the assembled leaders. I am requesting full activation of Earth's combined military forces, every ship, every soldier, every resource. Defense Minister Hiroshi Tanaka of the Pacific Alliance frowned. Admiral, our technology is primitive compared to these aliens. How can we possibly hope to stand against them? A small smile crossed Morgan's face. Not as primitive as they think, Minister. The screen changed again to show images of secret military installations. For the past 15 years, Dr. Susan Wright and her team at the Quantum Research Division have been developing technologies that we've kept hidden from public view and presumably from alien observation. Dr. Wright appeared on screen next, a slender woman with short brown hair and intense focus in her eyes. The Xivari ship used a form of quantum displacement technology that we've been experimenting with for years, Wright explained. Their version is more advanced, but the principles are similar. We've developed countermeasures and offensive applications that they won't be expecting from a developing world. President Garcia looked skeptical. Even with secret technology, we'd be facing an entire galactic alliance. Not necessarily, Morgan replied. The Krell suggested that many worlds in the Concordat might sympathize with our situation, but fear Xivari reprisal. If we demonstrate strength, we might find allies. Ambassador Richard Hayes, a distinguished diplomat with decades of experience, stood up. I volunteer to lead one final diplomatic mission. We should give peace a last chance before war. Morgan nodded. Agreed. Ambassador Hayes will deliver our ultimatum. Return Amy Collins within 72 hours, or face the consequences. And if they refuse? President Garcia asked. Morgan's gaze was steel. Then humanity goes to war, not just for Amy, but for every child these aliens have ever taken. We will show the galaxy what happens when you target a human child. 3 days later, Ambassador Hayes returned from his mission to the nearest Concordat outpost. His shuttle docked with the EDF Vengeance, Earth's largest warship. Morgan met him in the docking bay. One look at Hayes' face told her everything. "They laughed at me," Hayes said quietly. "Called us primitive monkeys when they thought I couldn't hear. They said we should be grateful they don't classify us as research animals ourselves." Morgan placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did your best, Richard." "What now, Claire?" She turned to look through the viewport at Earth's assembled fleet, hundreds of ships ranging from small fighters to massive carriers, all built in secret over the past decade. "Now we show them that humanity isn't as primitive as they think. Now we bring our girl home." Captain William Collins approached, now assigned as tactical officer aboard the Vengeance. His face showed the strain of the past days, but his voice was steady. "All ships report ready, Admiral." Morgan nodded. "Send the signal to all vessels. Our target is Zavari Prime. We move in 1 hour." As the fleet prepared to depart, a message arrived from Mars Colony. It was a short video from John and Lisa Collins. "Bring our Amy home," Lisa said simply, her eyes red but determined. "And make them pay." Morgan turned to the bridge crew, determination etched on her face. "You heard the lady. Let's go make them pay." The Earth fleet emerged from jump space near the edge of the Zavari system. Hundreds of ships, from small fighters to the massive EDF Vengeance, appeared silently against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Morgan stood with her hands clasped behind her back, studying the tactical display. "Stealth systems engaged on all vessels," reported Lieutenant Paul Adams, a young officer with steady hands and a calm voice despite the tension. "The Zavari haven't detected us yet." Captain William Collins nodded grimly. His thoughts were fixed on his niece Amy, somewhere out there, scared and alone among aliens who saw her as nothing more than a research specimen. "We're receiving data." "From the scout probes," said Communications Officer Kate Porter. "Putting it on the main screen now." The display showed a stunning sight. Zavari Prime. The alien world glowed with purple and blue city lights across its surface. Orbiting the planet were massive space stations and thousands of ships, all far more advanced than anything humans had built. "Look at their defenses," whispered someone on the bridge. "There must be 10,000 ships." Admiral Morgan's expression didn't change. "And not one of them is looking our way." "Dr. Wright, are your systems ready?" Dr. Susan Wright stood at a specialized console. The quantum physicist had insisted on joining the mission personally. "The quantum disruptors are online," she confirmed. "Based on the scan data, their shields operate on predictable frequency patterns, advanced, but with exploitable weaknesses." Morgan turned to the crew. "Remember why we're here? They took a child, one of our children, thinking we were too weak to respond. Today we proved them wrong." She approached the communications station. "Open a system-wide channel. Throughout the Zavari system, on every ship, space station, and planetary communication device, regular transmissions suddenly cut out. Instead, the image of Admiral Morgan appeared. "Attention Zavari leadership and Galactic Concordat representatives. I am Admiral Claire Morgan of Earth. 3 weeks ago, your forces abducted a human child named Amy Collins from our Mars colony. We have made diplomatic requests for her return, which you have ignored or dismissed." Morgan's voice remained level, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. "We now make one final demand. Return Amy Collins and all other specimens taken from Earth immediately. You have 1 hour to comply, or we will demonstrate what happens when you threaten our children." On Zavari Prime, the High Command Chamber erupted into chaos. The 7 members of the ruling council had never expected to see humans in their system. "Impossible," sputtered High Commander Draz, his scaled skin flushing dark purple with anger. "How did primitive humans find our homeworld? How did they get past our detection grid?" Counselor Vex, head of defense, checked the readings on his console. "We're not detecting any ships. They must be using some kind of cloaking technology." "Cloaking?" Draz's eyes widened. Humans don't have cloaking technology. Apparently they do, said Counselor Learn calmly. She was the oldest member of the High Command and the only one who seemed unruffled. The question is, what else do they have that we don't know about? It doesn't matter, Draz said dismissively. Even if they somehow developed rudimentary cloaking, their weapons will be useless against our shields. Prepare a response. Tell them we will crush their pathetic fleet if they don't retreat immediately. Back on the EDF Vengeance, the crew waited tensely as the hour ticked by. The response, when it came, was exactly what Morgan had expected. The image of High Commander Draz appeared on the screen, his alien features arranged in what humans would recognize as contempt. Humans of Earth, your presence in our system is a violation of Concordat law. Your threats are meaningless, your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Return to your solar system immediately, or we will destroy your fleet and classify Earth as a hostile world, subject to quarantine or worse. The specimen you refer to is Zevary property now, acquired legally under Concordat research protocols for developing species. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Property, William Collins said quietly, his hands clenched into fists. They called Amy property. Admiral Morgan's face hardened. Then I believe our response should be clear. She turned to her tactical officer. Target the Luxacy estates of the Zevary leadership. Not military targets, not civilian centers. Show them we know exactly who's responsible. Dr. Wright entered final commands into her console. Quantum disruptors locked on. High Command Residential District. Their shields won't stop these. Morgan took a deep breath. Humanity has never fired a shot in anger at another species before today. Let history record that we did not do so lightly, and that we gave them every opportunity to choose peace. She squared her shoulders. Fire. From the Earth fleet, beams of strange, shimmering energy lanced out toward the planet. They passed through the Zevary defensive shields as if they weren't there. On the surface, the exclusive compounds where Zevary leaders lived exploded in blossoms of fire. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the weapons proved far more devastating than even they had expected. Dr. Wright looked shocked at the destruction her inventions had caused. Their shields, she murmured. They didn't even slow the disruptors down. In the high command chamber on Zevary Prime, alarms blared as reports flooded in. The luxurious homes of 3 council members had been destroyed completely. Defensive systems that had protected the planet for centuries had failed. Impossible, Draz shouted, his composure shattered. How can primitive humans possess weapons that penetrate our shields? Counselor Learn's expression was grim. Perhaps we should reconsider our assessment of human technological capabilities. The human fleet moved closer to the planet, still undetected by Zevary sensors. Admiral Morgan opened the channel again. That was a demonstration, not our full capability. Return Amy Collins and all human specimens immediately, or the next target will be your military command centers. The response was immediate. Hundreds of Zevary ships began launching from the planet and nearby stations, moving to defensive positions. They're scrambling their fleet, reported Lieutenant Adams. Still no sign they can detect us, but they're setting up a perimeter. William Collins studied the tactical display. They'll find us eventually, Admiral. We should press our advantage while we have it. Morgan nodded. Agreed. All ships, target military installations only. Minimal casualties if possible. Show them we can hit whatever we want, whenever we want. The Earth fleet fired again. This time, Zevary defense platforms and weapon emplacements erupted in flames. Still invisible to Zevary sensors, the human ships moved with impunity through their defenses. Suddenly, a transmission came through, not from the Zevary, but from a different alien ship that had just arrived in the system. Human vessels. This is Ambassador Trell of the Galactic Concordat Security Council. We request immediate cessation of hostilities for negotiation. Morgan raised an eyebrow. Now they want to talk. William Collins's console beeped with an alert. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy readings from a facility on the night side of the planet. It matches the signature of the beam that took Amy. Morgan's eyes narrowed. Scan it. Is she there? Collins shook his head after reviewing the data. No human life signs, but there's something else. It looks like a data hub, a record of all their research facilities. Morgan turned to face the main screen where the Concordat ambassador waited. Her decision was made. Ambassador Trell tell. The Zavari, we accept their invitation to negotiate. In the meantime, we'll help ourselves to the location of every human they've taken. Captain William Collins led a team of 12 Special Forces soldiers toward the Zavari data hub. Their shuttle, cloaked with the same technology that hid the Earth fleet, landed silently on the roof of the massive structure. The building stood, isolated in a barren region of Zavari Prime's nightside, away from the main cities. Remember, we need the data intact, William reminded his team as they prepared to move. Find the main servers and download everything about their research facilities. Sergeant Diane Miller nodded. As the team's tech specialist, she carried special devices designed by Dr. Wright to interface with alien systems. I'm ready, Captain. If their data is there, I'll find it. The team moved silently through the facility. The few Zavari guards they encountered were quickly subdued with stun weapons. Earth had decided that, whenever possible, they would avoid killing. This wasn't about revenge, it was about rescue. While the Special Forces team infiltrated the data hub, Admiral Morgan sat across from Ambassador Trell in the conference room of the EDF Vengeance. The alien was tall and slender with pale green skin and large compound eyes that reflected light like cut gemstones. Admiral Morgan, Trell began, the Concordat recognizes that this situation has escalated beyond our expectations. We were not aware of Earth's technological progress. Morgan's expression remained neutral. You mistook our peaceful nature for weakness, Ambassador. A common error, but a serious one. Trell shifted uncomfortably. The Concordat is willing to discuss the return of the human child as a gesture of goodwill. Just Amy? Morgan asked quietly. What about the others? Trell blinked rapidly, a sign of confusion in his species. Others? I don't understand. We believe the Zavari have taken more than one human, Ambassador, and possibly specimens from other developing worlds as well. Before Trell could respond, Lieutenant Kate Porter entered the room. Admiral, we've received a transmission from Captain Collins. They've accessed the data hub. Morgan turned back to Trell. I believe we're about to learn the truth, Ambassador. I suggest you stay and watch. In the data hub, Sergeant Miller worked quickly at an alien terminal while the rest of the team secured the room. I'm in their system, she reported. There's a lot of encryption, but Dr. Wright's algorithms are breaking through. Her fingers flew over her portable device. Captain, I'm finding references to research facilities all over Concordat space. Not just one or two, dozens of them. William leaned closer. Any mention of humans? Of Amy? Miller nodded grimly. Amy. Collins is listed as specimen H7291, currently located at a facility in the Taraxis system. She paused, her face paling. Sir, there are at least 17 other humans being held at various facilities. The oldest entry dates back nearly 50 years. William's jaw tightened. Download everything. Names, locations, dates, all of it. Miller worked quickly. There's more, Captain. The database doesn't just list human specimens. There are entries for over 30 different species, all classified as developing by the Concordat. William stared at the data scrolling across the screen. How many individuals? Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. Going back centuries. Back on the Vengeance, Morgan received the first data packages from the ground team. As the information appeared, on the main screen, Ambassador Trell's compound eyes widened in obvious shock. This cannot be correct, he stammered. The Concordat prohibits mass collection of specimens from any world, even developing ones. Morgan's voice was ice cold. Your rules clearly don't apply to the Zavari, Ambassador. Or perhaps the Concordat simply looks the other way when it's convenient. The screen showed images and data about dozens of facilities, each holding living beings from various worlds. Children, mostly. The younger the better for Zavari research. We're dispatching half our fleet to the Taraxis facility immediately, Morgan informed Trell. The rest will remain here to ensure the Zavari don't interfere. I suggest the Concordat do the same. Trell looked genuinely disturbed. Admiral, I give you my word. The Security Council had no knowledge of this scale of operation. Individual, research specimens, yes, but this is beyond acceptable practice. Acceptable practice? Morgan's voice rose slightly. There is no acceptable number of children to kidnap, Ambassador. The diplomatic tension was interrupted by an urgent message from Lieutenant Adams. Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Concordat sector. A fleet is forming, the largest we've ever seen. The tactical display showed hundreds, then thousands of ships gathering. Far more than Earth could hope to face, even with their advanced technology. It appears some members of the Concordat disagree. With your assessment, Ambassador, Morgan said coldly. Trell looked at the display and shook his head. This is not a Security Council action. I have received no orders for military intervention. In the Taraxis system, a smaller Earth fleet dropped out of jump space near a well-hidden space station orbiting a barren moon. The facility was built into the rocky surface, nearly invisible to casual observation. Commander Frank Peterson of the EDF Relentless studied the scans of the facility. Life signs confirmed, multiple species including human. One matches the DNA profile of Amy Collins. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Maria Sanchez, looked up from her console. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy readings. They're powering up something big inside the facility. Peterson's eyes narrowed. They're going to destroy the evidence. All ships move in now. Get our people onto that station before they can harm the children. Earth shuttles raced toward the facility, carrying rescue teams. As they approached, defensive weapons on the station opened fire. They're targeting their own research subjects, Sanchez reported in horror. They're trying to collapse the inner chambers. On one of the shuttles, Army Specialist Kevin Hart held onto a support strap as the craft dodged energy blasts. He was part of the structural team, trained to secure damaged buildings. Today, his skills would be put to a very different use. Need to stabilize those inner chambers long enough to get everyone out, he told his team. According to the schematics, the main support beams are here and here. He pointed to locations on a holographic display. Inside the facility, Amy Collins huddled with several other children of various species. Some looked almost human, others completely alien. All were frightened as the station shook around them. Zavari researchers stood at the door to their containment area, programming a sequence into a control panel. He wasn't trying to release them. He was making sure none of them would be found alive. Amy watched him with surprising calmness. 3 weeks of captivity had taught her much about her captors. She knew what the blinking lights on his control panel meant. She'd been observing, learning, even as they studied her. She turned to the other children, some of whom had been captives for years. Don't be afraid, she said, her voice small but steady. My people are coming for us, all of us. As if summoned by her words, the wall behind the Zavari researcher exploded inward. Earth special forces poured into the room, quickly subduing the alien scientist. A soldier knelt before Amy. Amy. Collins, I'm Sergeant Ben Mason. Your uncle sent us to bring you home. For the first time in weeks, Amy smiled. The Taraxis facility shook violently as Earth forces rushed to evacuate the captive children. Specialist Kevin Hart worked frantically to stabilize the collapsing structure while rescue teams moved through the corridors. This section won't hold much longer, he called out, placing support braces against a buckling wall. We need to move faster. Sergeant Mason carried Amy Collins in his arms, leading a group of alien children toward the evacuation shuttles. The little girl had insisted on helping, speaking softly to the most frightened captives in a way that somehow calmed them despite language barriers. Almost there, Mason assured the group as they reached the docking area. The shuttles are just ahead. A sudden explosion rocked the facility. Debris fell from the ceiling, and Mason saw that the path to the shuttles was now blocked. He turned to find another route, but saw Hart running toward them. The main supports are failing, Hart shouted. This whole section is going to collapse. In minutes. Hart looked at the blocked passage, then at the frightened children. Without hesitation, he moved to a control panel on the wall. "I can reroute power to hold the emergency force fields," he said. "It'll keep this section intact long enough for you to get out through the maintenance tunnel." He pointed to a narrow passage. "But someone has to stay and keep the system running, manually." Mason understood immediately. There has to be another way. Hart shook his head. "No time. Get them out, Sergeant. Tell my wife I love her." Amy looked up at Hart, her young eyes understanding more than a child should. "You're saving us." Hart nodded, managing a smile. "That's what humans do, kiddo. We protect children, all children." He turned to Mason. "Go, now." Mason hesitated, only a moment before leading the group into the maintenance tunnel. As they crawled through the narrow passage, another explosion shook the facility. Amy looked back once, tears in her eyes, before continuing forward. Minutes later, they emerged. Near the shuttle bay, Earth soldiers quickly helped them aboard. As the shuttles launched, the section of the facility they had escaped from collapsed entirely. In the Zavari system, Admiral Morgan watched as the massive Concordat fleet approached. Ambassador Trell was still aboard the Vengeance, now joined by representatives from several other Concordat species who had arrived after seeing the evidence from the data hub. "The approaching fleet is not acting on Concordat authority," said Trell. "Many council members are outraged by the Zavari actions, but some fear the consequences of human technology spreading through the galaxy." Morgan's expression remained determined. "We've broadcast the evidence to every system in range. The truth is out there now." Lieutenant Porter reported from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from dozens of worlds. Many are withdrawing their ships from the Concordat fleet." On the main screen, they could see it happening. Nearly half the approaching vessels were breaking formation, pulling away from the main fleet. "The balance is shifting," Trell observed. "But those who remain will still fight." A new transmission came through. The face of High Commander Draz appeared, his scaled features twisted with rage. "Humans, you have violated our sovereignty and stolen our research subjects. The Concordat will crush your primitive fleet and quarantine your world for 1,000 years." Morgan didn't bother responding to the threat. Instead, she opened a channel to every ship in the approaching fleet. "This is Admiral Morgan of Earth. We came seeking one child but found hundreds of innocent beings held captive against all principles of justice. We do not want war with the Concordat. We want reform. Those who stand with the Zavari now stand with kidnappers and torturers of children. Is that the legacy you choose?" More ships began breaking away from the Concordat formation. William Collins returned to the bridge, having just arrived from the Data Hub mission. "Admiral, rescue teams report success at the Taraxis facility. Amy Collins and 43 other captives have been recovered." Morgan allowed herself a small smile. "Any casualties?" William's expression grew solemn. "One, Specialist Kevin Hart stayed behind to keep the facility stable long enough for the others to escape." Morgan nodded, adding the name to her memory. "He will be honored." A new transmission came in, not from the Concordat fleet, but from a different sector of space entirely. The alien that appeared was unlike any they had seen before, with crystalline features that shifted colors as it spoke. "People of Earth, I am Elder Viss of the Outer Worlds Alliance. We have monitored your actions with great interest. For too long, the Concordat has allowed the Zavari to prey upon developing worlds like ours. We stand ready to form a new alliance with humanity, one based on respect for all sentient beings." Similar messages began coming in from other regions of the galaxy. Species that had remained hidden from the Concordat, fearing what had happened to Earth, now saw humans as potential allies. 3 months later, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered on Earth. The United Nations headquarters in New York had been expanded to accommodate visitors of all shapes and sizes. Admiral Morgan stood at the podium, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Today we formalize the Guardian Accord," she announced. "An alliance dedicated to protecting the rights of all sentient beings, regardless of technological development." In the front row sat John and Lisa Collins, with Amy between them. The girl had recovered remarkably well from her ordeal and had become a symbol of human resilience. Beside them sat a small Zevary child named Lenz, whose parents had been executed for opposing the experiments. The Collins family had adopted him, showing that humanity's capacity for forgiveness matched its capacity for righteous fury. Ambassador Trell, now representing the reformed Concordat, signed the treaty after Morgan. "The galaxy underestimated humanity," he said. "We saw your peaceful nature and thought it weakness. We did not understand that nothing is more dangerous than a species that will cross the stars to protect its children." Later that evening, John and Lisa watched as Amy showed Lenz the night sky from their backyard in Arizona. The Zevary child was still learning to live on Earth, but Amy had become his guide and protector. "Do you think there are other children out there who need help?" Lenz asked, his alien eyes focused on the stars. Amy nodded seriously. "Probably, but they don't have to be scared anymore." She pointed to the sky where Earth ships, now joined by vessels from their new allies, were visible as moving lights. "Because now everyone knows. If you hurt a child, any child from any world, we'll come for you." John placed his hands on the shoulders of both children. "That's the thing the galaxy needed to learn about us," he said gently. "Humans aren't the most advanced species or the strongest or the oldest, but we will travel across the stars and face any danger to protect our children. All children." In orbit above Earth, the EDF Vengeance prepared for its next mission. On Diu, its hull, a new emblem had been painted. A child's hand reaching for the stars, protected by the hands of adults from a dozen different species. The message was clear to all who saw it. The galaxy had changed forever because they had targeted a human child, and Earth had answered with enough force to reshape the stars themselves.